Snow covered, the plows are out, but traffic is moving pretty slowly. An accident, 2 lanes are blocked in Bloomington. 35W southbound at the Minnesota River Bridge. As I said, 2 lanes blocked, right and center lanes there in Bloomington. Also, the on-ramp blocked in Minnetonka, 494 northbound, the ramp to Highway 7 eastbound. That's due to a rollover. An accident has the right lane blocked in Vadnais Heights, 694 westbound before 35E. An accident on the left shoulder in Minnetonka, 494 northbound at Highway 7. And also, as I said, the roads are wet and icy due to the recent snowfall. Some of the highways are still snow-covered. City streets are snow-covered, and there's a fire going on, or the fire trucks just went by me, about 4 of them this morning here, right down by the station off University. Your new Toyota comes with 2 full years of complimentary maintenance if you purchased it after April 1st, 2010. Contact your local Toyota dealer today to schedule your appointment.
Very good. Thank you. Snow showers 24 today. As Terry said, light snow right now 19. The driving is terrible. Kind of just sloppy and slushy, and people driving like dopes, like some people do, even after 85 snowfalls. Who knows? We have a list of 11 great job search tips for 2011 to help you get back to work. That'll be great. How about Evans? Oscars and Golden Globes, TV review, Dr. Murray Court News. He's on site, remember, at the Dr. Murray Court hearing. Mel Gibson Court News. Andy Dick, Hugh Hefner, and Jersey Shore. The male model accused of castration speaks out. Naturally, it involves demons. And KQ listener Caspian the 33rd writes in with a translation for yesterday's voicemail message from Demandria. It's all up next, KQ.
Now back to the morning show.
Training wheels. You don't know how to ride a bike?
I know how to ride this bike.
Stephen Hawking could ride that bike. Didn't you teach him how to ride a bike?
How could I? I don't know how to ride a bike.
2/3 of my house can't do what a billion Chinese do.
Live on KQ92.
It is 5:46, 14 minutes till 6 o'clock again. 19 light snow right now. Careful driving. The driving is not good at all because apparently some people just can't handle it. 19 light snow right now. 24 snow showers later on today. So warm temperatures for this time of the year. Well, about average, I guess. I think 24, somewhere in there's the average. 24 to 30. It is what it is. In the news this morning here at KQRS, when you think about horned creatures, a few come to mind instantly. Rhinos, bulls, unicorns, the devil. Amazingly, humans are part of that group more often than you might think. Huang Yanfan, 84 of Jiyan, China, is the latest person to report an unusual growth protruding from his head. His horn began growing 2 years ago at the age of 82 and has reached a length of 3 inches, according to news sources in Britain.
Oh, that is gross.
Kind of is, yeah. British news sites we're talking about here. When it began as a small bump, Juan said he tried picking at it and even filing it. But the horn preserved and kept growing. Why does this only happen in China? I've never heard of it happening anywhere else.
Is he married?
Doesn't say anything. He's 84. The missus is probably still alive, I would guess.
Because in America, by the time we start filing something, we go to the hospital and have it freaking removed.
There is that. And by the way, this horn protrudes from the back of his head. I would say about, but if you go from the base of the neck to the forehead, it's about halfway home. And I would say if I were a Mr. whatever his name is, Young John, whatever, you might want to go to hair restoration. Go over and see those fine folks over there. They'll take care of you. Some grafts, and you'll be good to go.
Couldn't you use it for something, like to carry things?
No, like use it as a hat rack.
I suppose you could. You could use it as a hat rack to carry things. Doctors say they don't know what caused it, but if they try to take it off, it will just come back. Well, so let it come back and keep taking it off. Huang told the press, I try to hide it beneath a hat, but if it gets much longer, it'll be sticking out of the top. Last year, Zhang Ruifang, a 101-year-old from China, made the news when a second horn began emerging from her head. Hers are right on her forehead, by the way. The full one is over her left eye, a new one beginning to grow over her right eye. So that'll look good.
Hers was like 6 inches long, too, wasn't it? That was a long one.
This one I'm looking at is about 3 inches.
For the 82-year-old guy or the lady?
The lady.
Oh, okay. I thought it was longer than that.
No, it looks a lot like Bill Clinton's penis. Well, at least one woman said it was thumb-like.
Down and to the left.
That's what she said, In any case.
I love this.
Anyway, her first horn had already grown 2.5 inches. Zhang embraced her new look and told reporters that she was eager for the second horn to match the first in its size. She refused offers to remove the horns. Remember, she's 101 years old, so she wants to stick out in a crowd.
Sure.
You know, when you look at his, it'll keep your hat on your head. When you look at hers, I just want to itch. It's just right in the forehead. Ugh.
That is and Brian's point is well taken. Why don't you go to the hospital and get that thing cut off? Come on, let's go. China has produced a number of other elderly, horny folks in recent years. In 2007, 93-year-old Ma Zhongnan flaunted a 4-inch horn. Maybe that's the one you're thinking about. Growing atop his head, he paid little attention to it until it became itchy, at which point he sought help. That same year, 95-year-old Zhao Ling made headlines for a 6.5-inch horn that jutted out of her forehead and curled downward over her face.
Now, when you look at these, don't you think you just snap them off or get a wire cutter?
Yeah,
there's no blood in there, right? That's why it's black.
Jesus. They're showing the woman with the 6.5-inch one that hooks down.
Oh, my God.
It's just unbelievable.
I think that's a vulture standing behind her.
It looks like it.
She's a lesbian. She could do her own shocker.
She could.
Her forehead has a talon.
She'd have to remove a couple of ribs, though, to do the shocker.
Right.
I'm thinking maybe.
Yeah.
What I really like about it, she's been using the Hydrolyze because that skin is just silky smooth.
Yeah.
Jesus. Talk about a tough row to hoe. The biggest one ever, there's a picture of a man. He's got the Fu Manchu mustache, got the shaved head, and he has what looks to be about a foot-long horn coming out of the back of his head. It's just bizarre that people... I guess this proves that what we've been saying all along, that this 40 million Americans don't have health care is complete BS because there's not one person in the United States with a horn protruding from their head. So it just shows you it's BS. By the way, the one woman whose horn hooks down over her face, it's been growing for 4 years. She's 95 years old. In 2006, Zhang Yukai of China's Xinjiang country felt what he thought was a pimple on his head. Eventually, that pimple got bigger and bigger until it developed into a 2-inch horn-shaped bump. Doctors removed the strange growth free of charge. I just thought of something that would be kind of interesting. Would it be great if it were true that 40 million people in the United States don't have health insurance and you could pick them out because they have horns? Well, that person doesn't have health insurance. I guarantee you that. Of course, human horns extend beyond China's borders. Yeah. For example, in February 2007, the Yemen Observer reported on the case of Saleh Talib Saleh, a 102-year-old man whose horn started growing on the left side of his head at age 78. One day I was touching the surface of my head. I felt a very thick and hard layer of substance on my head, Saleh told the Observer. At that time, he didn't have the medical institutions like we have today, so I ignored it and did not focus too much on it because it didn't bother me at all. Wait a second. 4 years ago, you didn't have the medical institutions you have today?
Yeah, no kidding.
What? Well, there's a prisoner, apparently. Is that Saleh? Oh, he's not a prisoner. He just wears really bad clothing. He's got about a 4, 5, 6-inch horn sticking out of the left side of his. He's got a cauliflower ear, so apparently he was a wrestler. And that ear is cauliflower as can be.
I'm guessing a lot of Saturday nights at home alone.
Yeah, he's got it all going on.
You would have to agree with that. One day I was touching it. It felt like a little bump. But then every week it seemed to grow bigger and harder. He said it reached a length of 19 inches before it broke off in 2006. But just days later, it started growing right back. I've had hundreds of visitors who come from around the country and feel surprised and in awe when they see the greatness of God. The greatness of God in His creation? And we're trying to sit down and talk to these people.
That's making lemonade out of lemons right there.
Mm-hmm. Sure it is. It's also called fake, the head fake to oneself, fooling oneself.
He's on the sunny side of life.
These types of horns are typically cutaneous horns, which are composed of the same substance found in our fingernails, like keratin. While bizarre, they are usually harmless. I still say, get out the old saw and just hack her off. Just do it. Would you please? Hey, look, if Proactive's good enough for, Jessica, it's good enough for you. Jessica Simpson, she was a spokesperson for Proactive, wasn't she?
Yep.
You know what? That's a great idea. You could call the Arbor Barber. They could come over and cut it right off. What do you think of that action?
How long do you think a horned person would have lasted in the Middle Ages?
Oh, God. With the devil. It would have absolutely been the devil, and they would have killed him on sight. He or she.
Yeah, but he burns real good with that horn.
Probably. It's a wick. You could light it there first. Absolutely. Works for me. The risk of heart disease and premature death from any cause doubled for those spending more than 4 hours a day glued to a screen, it was claimed. Metabolic factors and inflammation may be partly to blame, the report said. Research revealed those who devote more than 4 hours watching television, surfing the web, or playing computer games are more than twice as likely to have major cardiac problems. Dr. Emmanuel Stamatakis of University College London's Department of Epidemiology and Public Health said, people who spend excessive amounts of time in front of a screen, primarily watching TV, are more likely to die of any cause and suffer heart-related problems. Our analysis suggests that 2 or more hours of screen time each day may place someone at greater risk for a cardiac event, which means all of us are going to die of a heart attack because our job is to spend 3 hours and 40 minutes in front of a computer screen.
Is it because they don't move? Laziness?
Well, I think it's just a signal sent to the brain they're talking about.
Oh.
I don't know. They're trying to say it tips your entire reactive scale, and that's not good for your body. And whatever.
I have a question too. That congresswoman who was shot, they removed
Giffords.
part of her skull.
About half of it.
Yep, and they'll replace that later.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
It's on ice.
It's just on ice, and then they can just sew it back up. And
they put it in that little butter door in the refrigerator, the one you never use.
Well, I knew it wasn't that, but I didn't know if it was still connected and they had it just lifted up.
No, my nephew went through that. Remember, he suffered brain damage in a car accident, and they just took off a piece of his skull, put it on ice, and then they just put it back, and it was good to go.
That's amazing that it just regenerates like that.
Most definitely. The study, it doesn't regenerate. They sew it back on.
Yeah, but I mean that the cells, it still all clicks back together after that amount of time.
Kind of like Legos.
They said they could go 3 months without her head being her skull.
Which is great they can do that now because she would have been dead, maybe 25 years ago or 30. I don't know how long ago, but her brain would have just swollen and killed her.
Yeah. Well, that chunk they removed, they said, made a lot of extra room in there.
Right, and that has to do with speech, correct? They removed the part of her brain that deals with speech.
That and the right side of her body having control of that so that she may be...
Yeah. Now, how do you do that to a woman again?
Yeah.
Get away from me.
You don't want to do this. You don't you don't want to do that.
No, I don't. Just wondering.
Well, you could shoot her in the head, but not with that kind of projectile.
Sure.
And it would go right through.
It did with her.
Some it does, yeah.
She is in chemically induced coma right now because they, obviously don't want her thrashing around.
Do you think when she's good and all healthy and everything, they'll make a joke about that? No. Tease her.
But maybe 50 years from now.
Sometime before 7, we're going to hear from the man who they claim literally saved her life. It's an intern who had only been working for a week. He went over and applied pressure right to the bullet wound. Right. And that allowed no bleeding to escape. So we'll hear from him before 7.
No blood escape. That's great. Excellent. The first was the study was to examine the association between screen time and fatal and non-fatal heart attacks. Found there was 48% increased risk of all-cause mortality and approximately 125% increase in risk of cardiovascular events in those spending more than 4 hours in front of a computer screen or a television. The risks were irrespective of factors such as smoking, hypertension, BMI, social class, and even exercise. I love that. They didn't take those into consideration. Yeah, that's good. We'll just leave out about 95% of the elements, and we'll just go with this. Okay? What do you say? Again, these studies, I believe about a quarter of them until there's absolute proof, because right now it's speculation. We shall see. Well, Bob?
Yes, sir.
At least we're not Tubby Smith. Why don't we just do a sport here because Tubby's got a few problems.
Well, we'll start with that then. You ready to go?
Sports with Bob Sansevere, KQ.
Well, Trevor Mbakwe has been their best player. He's leading the Big Ten in rebounds. He tied with Blake Hoffaber for the scoring lead. He was arrested and jailed last night for allegedly violating a harassment restraining order obtained by a former girlfriend. Now, he has had problems in the past. Couldn't play last year because of a problem he had in the past.
Yep.
When he faced a felony battery charge back from when he was at Miami-Dade. Yet there's a restraining order, but police say he was booked because he posted a message on a St. Paul woman's Facebook page. The woman had previously filed a restraining order against him in Dakota County, and that's what came into play. Now, the Gophers obviously have to have a reaction to this, and we don't know what they're going to react, but one of the options would be suspending him until this is done, until it goes through the courts.
Oh, God.
So they do play, by the way, once beaten Purdue on Thursday.
They have to suspend him because these are formal charges.
Yes.
They have to suspend him.
Well, but that is a scenario that appears to be likely that they would do. So, especially with the history he has. Now, did you watch any of the game, the BCS championship game?
I did not. It was a hell of a game from what I understand.
Well, one on the last play, 22-19 by Auburn, and Auburn running back Michael Dyer. It was a hell of a play. I mean, the 37-yard run, because it looked like on first blush that he was down, but his knee never touched. Everyone stopped, including him for a few seconds. Then he took off down the field.
Oh, God.
And the replay showed his knee never touched, but he was on top of another kid's body. It is a hell of a way to wind up losing. But see, the thing is, though, if somebody had nailed him when he had stopped and just stood up, there would have been a flag. So it's
no, there wouldn't have been. There wasn't a whistle.
There was not a whistle, but a flag would have been thrown at the time,
but
and they would have had to sort through it.
There wouldn't have been a flag because there wasn't a whistle.
I understand the whistle thing, but there are guys now are going to be hitting other players in situations like that. But I mean, it was absolutely illegal play.
But if there's a whistle and they hit someone, they'll throw a flag.
Yes,
if there's not a whistle and they hit someone, then they don't throw a flag.
Well, my point is a flag would have been thrown, but it probably would have been taken back.
My point is, I'm going to grow a horn out of my head if we don't stop this and just do the sports for Christ.
That's what I was working on. Before the game, Glenn Caruso, St. Thomas, and Bob Nielsen of Minnesota Duluth honored as coaches of the year. Caruso in Division III, Nielsen in Division II. And Tom, I got some information for you that you were asking about.
Yeah, I saw I got an email from several people said it was a Cowher, Dungy, and who else?
Well, no, the number 12 coaches won Super Bowls in 3 seasons or less, 14 coaches in more than 3 seasons, but it's actually 50-50 because Lombardi won his first NFL title in his 3rd season, his Super Bowl in the 8th. So 13 have done it in 3 seasons or less if you counted the NFL, and 13 in 3 or more seasons. And there was a streak of 5 in a row of 3 seasons or less, and then 4 of the last 5 have been 4 or more seasons.
So basically my study went right in the toilet.
Well, frankly, I'm surprised.
Snow covered, the plows are out, but traffic is moving pretty slowly. An accident, 2 lanes are blocked in Bloomington, 35W southbound at the Minnesota River Bridge. As I said, 2 lanes blocked, right and center lanes there in Bloomington. Also, the on-ramp blocked in Minnetonka, 494 northbound, the ramp to Highway 7 eastbound. That's due to a rollover. An accident has the right lane blocked in Vadnais Heights, 694 westbound before 35E. An accident on the left shoulder in Minnetonka, 494 northbound at Highway 7. And also, as I said, the roads are wet and icy due to the recent snowfall. Some of the highways are still snow-covered. City streets are snow-covered, and there's a fire going on, or the fire truck